The syringe is already in her hand. Her grip is steady, impossibly steady for a woman standing 2 feet from a man who just told her he would have her buried before sunrise. The hospital room is silent, except for the hiss of the oxygen monitor. She doesn't look at the two bodyguards filling the doorway. She doesn't look at the gun one of them has stopped pretending to hide. She looks only at the man on the bed. This mountain of a man who controls 3 boroughs, who owns police captains and judges and city councilmen. And she says, with the quiet certainty of someone who has never once been afraid of dying, "Move your arm, Mr. Caruso. I need to place this IV or you will be dead in 11 minutes. And I will not lose a patient tonight, not even you." St. Catherine's Medical Center sits at the edge of South Philadelphia, like a fortress that time forgot to tear down. Its corridors smell of disinfectant and old coffee, and something underneath both that no one ever names. The night shift starts at 7 and ends at 7, and in between, anything can happen, and usually does. Gunshot wounds, overdoses, strokes at 2 in the morning. The ER at St. Catherine's is not a place for soft people. It never has been. Valeria Moreno has worked nights at St. Catherine's for 9 years. She is 38 years old, 5'4", with dark hair she keeps in a tight braid, and the kind of stillness in her eyes that people either find deeply reassuring or deeply unnerving, depending on who they are. She grew up in this neighborhood. She bought a small row house 6 blocks from this hospital. She has no husband, no children, and precisely one person she calls when something goes wrong: her older brother Marco, who she hasn't spoken to in 3 years. She is not a woman who explains herself. She is a woman who acts, and then deals with the consequences, and then goes home and makes coffee, and does it again the next night. On this particular Tuesday in February, Valeria's shift has been brutal. A double stabbing, a pediatric seizure, and a 60-year-old woman whose heart stopped twice before help bring her back. It is 11:40 at night. The ER has gone briefly, deceivingly quiet. Valeria is charting at the nurse's station, her 3rd coffee going cold beside her keyboard, when the ambulance bay doors blow open with a sound like a gunshot, and 3 men come through them, moving fast. The kind of fast that doesn't ask for permission. The man they're carrying is enormous, 6'3", easily 260 pounds, wearing a charcoal suit that costs more than Valeria makes in 2 months. A suit now soaked through on the left side with blood so dark it looks almost black under the fluorescence. 2 men support him under each arm. A third, the youngest, maybe 25, face tight with barely controlled panic, moves ahead of the group like a shield, scanning every face in the room. This is not a man being brought to a hospital. This is a king being moved between territories. His name is Dominic Caruso. Valeria doesn't know this yet, but she will very soon. What she knows right now is that she has a GSW to the left torso, blood pressure dropping, and a man whose first words when they lay him on the gurney are not "help me" or "it hurts," but a low, controlled instruction delivered to the young man beside him. "You call anyone, and I will consider it a personal betrayal." His voice is the kind of voice that was designed by a lifetime of being obeyed. It does not rise. It does not shake. It simply lands. Valeria moves past the hesitation of 2 younger nurses like it isn't even there. She is already cutting the suit jacket away with trauma shears when the young man, whose name she will later learn is Vincent, grabs her wrist. Not hard, but deliberately. "He doesn't want the police called," Vincent says. "We need this quiet." Valeria looks at the hand on her wrist. She looks at Vincent's face. Then she looks back at the wound. "Let go of my arm," she says, without raising her voice, "or I will treat you as a threat to my patient and have security remove you so fast your shoes stay in the hallway." Vincent lets go. From the gurney, Dominic Caruso watches this exchange with the detached interest of a man who has spent 53 years cataloging what people are made of under pressure. Most people, in his experience, are made of very little. This nurse, this woman with the steady hands and the voice like a closed door, is something different. He doesn't know what yet, but even through the white noise of blood loss, he notices. He files it away. Then the pain spikes, and his vision grays at the edges, and he allows himself exactly 3 seconds of something he hasn't felt since he was 19 years old. Vulnerability. Valeria works fast. She has the IV line placed in 90 seconds, an IV line in a collapsed vein that 2 other nurses have already failed to find. She calls the type and cross match, she orders the portable ultrasound, she positions the lighting herself because the overhead angle is wrong and she knows it. The attending physician on duty that night, a young resident named Dr. Farouk, who graduated med school 14 months ago, arrives at the bedside and immediately steps back from Valeria's orbit without being asked. He has worked 4 shifts with her. He already knows. It is while reading the ultrasound image that Valeria goes still. Not visibly, not in a way that Vincent or the bodyguards notice. But Dominic notices. He has been watching her from the moment she took control of the room, because that is what he does. He watches the person doing the most important thing, and he looks for the moment when their confidence changes. And her confidence doesn't change, but something else does. Her eyes move from the screen to his face and back again. And in that moment, something passes through them that is not medical and is not professional. It is recognition. The bullet did not penetrate the abdominal cavity. It tracked along the external oblique and lodged against the lower rib. Painful, bloody, dangerous if untreated, but survivable without surgery if managed correctly. Valeria knows this. She also knows something else now. The tattoo on Dominic Caruso's left shoulder, partially visible as she cut away his shirt, is not decorative. It is a Sicilian mourning symbol, a very specific one, used by a very specific lineage of families from a very specific part of Palermo. Valeria knows this because her father drew the same symbol on paper for her when she was 7 years old and told her, "This is who we come from. Never forget it, and never, ever say it out loud." She finishes her work. She does not say anything about the tattoo. She orders the wound irrigation and the antibiotic drip, and she writes the chart notes with precise, unremarkable language that describes a man with a laceration from broken glass, because that is what he told the triage intake, and because Valeria Moreno has 9 years of experience understanding which truths will save lives and which truths will end them. Then she steps into the corridor, leans against the wall just outside the door, and allows herself 5 seconds to breathe. In those 5 seconds, she makes a decision that will change everything. She goes back inside. Dominic is awake, lying still, watching the door. Vincent has moved to the window. The bodyguards are still in the hallway. Valeria pulls the chair to the bedside and sits, which is not standard procedure, and which communicates, precisely, that she is not here as his nurse right now. "Your family is from Corleone," she says quietly. Not a question. Dominic's eyes don't widen. They sharpen. "My mother's family is from Corleone," Valeria continues. "Her name was Santina Mancuso. And unless I am very wrong about that tattoo, you knew her brother." Dominic Caruso has not been surprised by anything in a long time. Genuine surprise, the kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind that moves through your body before your mind can process it, is a sensation that belonged to his youth, when the world still had the capacity to exceed his expectations. He lost that feeling somewhere around age 32, when he realized he had anticipated everything that was coming and positioned himself for all of it. And yet here, in a hospital room in South Philadelphia, a woman is looking at him across 4 feet of institutional carpet
and naming a man he buried in 1987. He says nothing for a long time. Then, "How old are you?" The conversation that follows lasts 40 minutes. Valeria tells him almost nothing, but she asks precise questions, and Dominic, who cannot explain to himself why he is answering them, gives her precise answers. He knew Enzo Mancuso. He was with Enzo Mancuso the night Enzo died. He has carried that night with him for 36 years, in a way that a man like Dominic Caruso would never admit to carrying anything. By the time Valeria stands and says she needs to check on other patients, something has shifted in the room that has nothing to do with medicine. At 2 in the morning, Vincent finds her at the nurse's station. He doesn't sit. He stands at the desk's edge, lowering his voice in the way men do when they want to intimidate without witnesses. He tells her that Mr. Caruso appreciates her discretion. He tells her that Mr. Caruso would like her continued discretion, tonight and permanently. He places an envelope on the counter. It is thick. It makes a specific kind of sound when it lands. Then Vincent says the last sentence, the one that changes the temperature in Valeria's chest from calm to something else entirely. Mr. Caruso also wants you to know that he knows where you live. Valeria slides the envelope back across the counter, without opening it. "Tell Mr. Caruso," she says, "that I don't take money for doing my job. And tell him that threatening a nurse in a hospital is a federal offense." She pauses. "And tell him I'll be back in his room in 20 minutes to change his dressing. He should eat something if he can." Vincent stares at her. He has worked for Dominic Caruso for 7 years. He has watched men twice Valeria's size crumble under a fraction of what Dominic applied to her tonight. He picks up the envelope, slowly, and walks away without another word. What Valeria does not tell Vincent, what she will not tell anyone that night, is that the moment he mentioned her address, something inside her that had been dormant for 3 years woke up like a fire behind a door she had locked deliberately and carefully, and with full knowledge of what she was locking away. Her phone is in her scrubs pocket. Her brother Marco's contact is still in it, untouched since their last conversation ended in silence. She knows what Marco does for a living. She has always known. She told herself it didn't matter because she had chosen a different life. But choices, in her experience, have a way of expiring without warning. She puts the phone away without calling. She goes back to Dominic's room with fresh dressing supplies and gloves and the flat, professional face she has worn for 9 years like armor. Dominic is awake. He has eaten half the crackers from the tray beside him. He watches her approach with those calculating dark eyes and says, without preamble, "You didn't take the money." She opens the dressing pack. No. He's quiet for a moment. Why? She begins to work on the wound with the same precise calm as before. "Because then you'd own something," she says, "and I don't belong to anyone." He looks at her for a long time. Then he almost smiles. Almost. At 3:45 in the morning, a man Valeria has never seen before walks into St. Catherine's ER and asks for her by name. Not for a nurse, not for the charge nurse, for Valeria Moreno, by full name, at 3:45 in the morning, 6 hours after Dominic Caruso arrived with a bullet in his side. The man is in his 60s, well-dressed, but not flashy, the kind of dress that doesn't want to be noticed. He carries nothing. He sits in the waiting area and does not look around. He simply waits. Valeria's colleague Priya is the one who comes to find her, and even Priya, who has worked nights for 12 years and has seen nearly everything, looks unsettled. "Someone's asking for you out front," Priya says. "He didn't give a name. He said to tell you the Mancuso girl. He said you'd know." The man's name is Sal Greco. He is the consigliere, the chief advisor of the Caruso family, a position he has held for 22 years. He is also Valeria realizes as she sits across from him in the empty waiting room with her arms folded. The man who came to their house when she was 12 years old and sat at their kitchen table with her father and spoke in Sicilian for 2 hours while Valeria's mother kept her and Marco in the back bedroom with the door shut. Valeria was 12, but she listened through the wall, and she understood every word because her father had made sure she would. What she understood was this. The Caruso family owed Enzo Mancuso a debt, a very specific debt, one that had never been paid. Sal tells her what she mostly already knew, that Enzo Mancuso died because of a territory dispute between two families, and that Dominic Caruso, then 27, then a soldier not yet a boss, was present but not responsible for the order. What she did not know is what Sal tells her next, quietly and without inflection, as though he has been carrying this particular sentence for 36 years and is setting it down carefully. That Dominic spent 2 years after Enzo's death quietly ensuring that the man who gave the order met a very specific kind of ending. That he did it alone. That he told no one, took no credit, and never asked for acknowledgement. That it was the act of a man paying a debt in the only currency he had. Valeria does not cry. She has not cried about Enzo Mancuso, her uncle, her father's brother, the man who used to bring her oranges from the market on Saturdays, since she was 19 and alone in a dorm room in Pittsburgh, and understood finally, in the way you understand things when you're an adult, what his death had actually cost her family. She processed that grief a long time ago. What she feels now is different. It is the particular dislocation of learning that the story you built your anger around was incomplete, that the villain of the story had already, quietly, become something more complicated. She goes back to work. At 5:15, while the hospital begins the slow, mechanical exhale that precedes the morning shift, she is checking her other patients when her colleague Priya finds her again. Different this time. Faster. Lower voice. 2 men have come into the ER from the ambulance bay. Not through the front, from the side entrance that only staff use. They are not patients. They are not family members of patients. They are wearing dark clothes and asking questions about a man who came in earlier. And they are doing it with the specific kind of patience that is not patience at all, but precision. Valeria asks which room they're heading toward. Priya tells her. It is Dominic's room. Valeria makes 3 calls in 90 seconds. The first is to hospital security, reporting 2 unauthorized individuals in the staff corridor. She gives a precise description and location, voice completely calm. The second is to Priya, directing her to lock the staff entrance and redirect all non-emergency personnel away from the east corridor. The third call is the one that costs her something. The one she didn't make 2 hours ago when Vincent threatened her. The one she put away and locked. She calls Marco. He picks up on the second ring, which means he was already awake, which means someone already told him. I know, he says, before she speaks. Are you safe? She tells him she is. She tells him the room number. She tells him to hurry. The 2 men reach the east corridor. One of Caruso's bodyguards is in the hallway, and he is good at his job. He steps out immediately, body blocking the door. But there are 2 of them and 1 of him. And one of the men produces a federal badge and a document and says, loudly enough to be heard 3 rooms away, that they have a warrant to speak with Dominic Caruso. Not an arrest warrant, a witness protection warrant. And that changes everything, because it means they are not here to harm Dominic Caruso. They are here to extract him before someone else can. Vincent emerges from Dominic's room 2 seconds later. He reads the situation in approximately 4 seconds, and his expression does something Valeria hasn't seen it do all night. It goes completely blank. He takes the document. He reads it. He hands it back. Mr. Caruso doesn't recognize this jurisdiction, he says. The federal agent, a woman, early 40s, with the bearing of someone who has been through this specific conversation before and is bored by it, says he doesn't have to. His name appeared in a sealed deposition filed in the Eastern District 3 days ago by a witness currently in federal custody. We're offering a window. The window is closing. Valeria steps into the corridor from the stairwell door. She does this quietly, and for a moment, no one registers her. Then the federal agent's eyes find her, and Valeria says, "I'm his nurse. He's not medically stable for transfer." The agent says, "Ma'am, please step back." Valeria says, "I'm legally responsible for this patient's care until he is discharged or transferred to another medical team. If you move him without medical clearance, you are exposing the federal government to liability for any resulting harm. I need to see the credentials of the physician authorizing this transfer." A pause. The agent blinks. Valeria has said it with the precise, unhurried authority of someone who has read the relevant statutes and is not bluffing. From inside the room, Dominic Caruso has heard all of it. He's sitting up in the bed, which he should not be doing, one hand braced against the mattress, the IV line taut. He is listening to a woman he met 5 hours ago deploy legal procedure with the precision of an attorney and the nerve of a soldier to buy him time he didn't ask for and doesn't understand. His consigliere is in a waiting room down the hall. His bodyguards are outflanked. His young lieutenant is calculating exits. And this nurse, this woman who refused his money, who named his secrets, who has every reason to let him be taken, is standing in the corridor, holding the line. Marco Reyes arrives 11 minutes later through the ambulance bay with 2 men Valeria has never met and a phone call he puts on speaker in the hallway. A call to a federal district attorney named Hargrove, who, it becomes rapidly apparent, has a very strong professional opinion about the warrant the agents are carrying and its procedural validity. The federal agents take the call. The call is not short. When it ends, the agent who presented the warrant folds it and pockets it, and looks at Valeria with an expression that occupies the precise territory between professional respect and personal fury. "We'll be back," she says. Valeria says, "Have the medical authorization ready when you do." After the agents leave, Marco tries to hug her. She lets him. It lasts approximately 2 seconds, which is about right for the Reyes family. Then she tells him to get out of her hospital because he is creating a security incident and she has other patients. Marco laughs, a real laugh, startled out of him, and says she hasn't changed at all. She tells him she'll call him tomorrow. She means it this time. Then she goes back to her station, sits down at her computer, and begins charting. And her hands are completely steady. At 6:15 in the morning, 90 minutes before the end of Valeria's shift, Dominic Caruso calls her back into his room. He is sitting up again. He looks like a man who has spent the night being hammered and is pretending he hasn't, which is, Valeria suspects, how he looks most mornings. Vincent is in the corner. Sal Greco arrived at some point and stands by the window, hands in his pockets. Dominic waits until she is fully in the room and says, "Sal tells me your father moved the family here in 1991, that your mother died in 2003, that Marco has been with the DeLuca organization since 2014. He pauses. He left out the part where you became someone I owe my life to. Valeria doesn't correct him or diminish it. She has spent 9 years being smaller than the room in order to do her job cleanly. That era, she feels, may be ending. She says, "I didn't do it for you. I did it because this is my hospital, and those agents had a procedurally invalid warrant, and a patient of mine was in danger." Dominic looks at her for a moment. Then he says, "That's what I mean." He lets that settle. Then, the Mancuso debt. It was never properly closed. Sal would like to discuss that with you, if you're willing. Not today, when you're ready. Valeria considers this for exactly 4 seconds. "I know a good attorney," she says. "I'll call you when I've spoken to him." Dominic nods. It is the nod of one equal to another. Dominic Caruso is discharged from St. Catherine's Medical Center at 7:48 in the morning, 12 minutes before Valeria's shift officially ends. The discharge paperwork is complete. The wound is properly treated. The record reads, laceration, non-surgical, glass trauma, no complications. He leaves through the ambulance bay in a black SUV with Vincent and the bodyguards. As the vehicle pulls out, Valeria is walking to her car in the staff lot. She doesn't watch it go. She already knows what it means, and she has made her peace with what she's going to do about it. She gets in her car. She calls her attorney. She drives home. 6 weeks later, Valeria Moreno is still working nights at St. Catherine's. She has taken on an additional role, patient advocacy coordinator, that she applied for the morning after Dominic's discharge. She and Marco have dinner twice in those 6 weeks, which is 2 more times than in the previous 3 years. The conversation about their family, about Enzo, about what was owed and what was paid, that conversation happens slowly, in pieces, the way the truth usually has to move through people who were raised to protect each other by staying silent. Dominic Caruso does not call her. But 3 things happen that she notices. A significant anonymous donation arrives at St. Catherine's Pediatric Ward, enough to fund a new NICU monitoring system the staff have needed for 2 years. The federal case in the Eastern District that referenced a sealed deposition quietly disappears from active dockets. And one morning, on her doorstep, she finds a single orange from the market. The good kind, the Sicilian kind, the kind her uncle used to bring on Saturdays, with no note, no explanation, no name. She holds it for a long time. Then she takes it inside and makes coffee. Dominic Caruso spent 53 years building a world where power was visible, where it announced itself in the cut of a suit and the weight of a presence and the way a room went quiet. He built that world because he believed in the marrow of his bones that invisible people were powerless people. That night in St. Catherine's, a woman showed him the wreckage of that belief. She was invisible to everyone who looked at her, and she was the most powerful person in the building. There's a particular kind of person this world consistently underestimates. They don't carry themselves like a threat. They don't announce their power. They show up, do their job, and wait, with the patience of someone who has always known exactly who they are. The next story we're bringing you lives in that same space. Someone nobody saw coming. A quiet, deliberate reckoning that will rewrite everything you think you know about who holds the real power in a room. If you love stories of hidden strength, loyalty, and survival, subscribe. The next story is one you won't see coming.